Week here. So fire away with the questions. Let's rock and roll.
I guess I just wanted to start by asking about Cole. With him getting more first team reps both in the game and in practice, just how does now what you're seeing now compare to what you observed in camp and when he was going through the backup role earlier in the season?
Well, more reps, more meaningful reps, more game reps, and credit to him. And much like a lot of our players, there's continued growth and development. So you see a steep trajectory of understanding and what we're doing. Now, he's always been able to do that. I've sang his praises all along, I think since fall camp, about how he's been able to grasp what we do offensively and understand the intent of plays and everything like that. So he's always been great at that, but to see him have reps and his wittiness and his decision making and is really rare for his age.
A lot of the multiplicity in your offense is based on the experience of the players involved. So how does that change when you have a freshman at the helm?
Well, the beautiful thing about him is that one of his strengths is being able to handle that, right? So him handling any check, any motion, any shift, any adjustment, the fact that he has all along had those capabilities and he learns really well, makes it seamless.
What was the story of how you guys found him or got him? I think you had Chuck Pagano speak. I don't know, is there a relationship there with
No, you ask Coach better than I, but his father and Coach perhaps I think worked together years ago at some point, and so we had known about him, and his film was impressive, right? And in a class that we weren't sure if we were taking a scholarship quarterback or not, or space, and so he was recruited for sure, and he's done a good job. So it goes back. He had a relationship with his father. So,
Coach, when you brought him on, was it pretty apparent? I mean, for a true freshman walk-on to be hitting the field now, was that kind of apparent to be like, hey, this guy's pretty good?
Yes, you can evaluate really quick, especially when you start installing things in the summer, the first summer, like we've talked about before, how players come in right after their high school senior year, and they're in here in June, and we start installing in nuggets, if you will, the offense. And you can kind of quickly see who picks up things quickly and who's, ready to do that kind of stuff. And it was apparent then that he was going to be able to be a fast learner.
I know it's real time when it's happening, but do you have any time when you're sending him in live action like that to give him any words? What'd you tell him, or was it just we got to make a call? Let's keep going.
Yeah, so it's we've talked before, I think, about game day communication, and Coach Z's down there, and we all, there's always just a next man up mentality with what we're doing, and how we go about practicing and making sure that people get reps, right? And so it's not like, oh my gosh, we've never seen him practice before, or can he take a snap? That's not at all the situation. So there was a lot of comfort, with what's going on, and to be able to just continue doing what the game plan is, right, with him at the helm. So, there's really no time to panic. If I'm doing my job and the rest of the staff, you can't panic. You got to move on, right? So, and what he's been able to do at practice and what he's been able to demonstrate makes it easy not to panic. So,
is it harder for you to call the game in that situation? Do you find yourself second guessing a call even for a split second because you've never seen him out there?
No, because again, you've seen him in practice, right? And how we go about practice, you never know until there's live bullets. But if there's anything after the game, you even have more confidence in the way he handles himself and his decision making, and his toughness and all those kind of things that you really, really appreciate about college football players. He embodies that. So, you just don't have time. You have to execute the plan, and there's a lot of players around him that have to do their jobs in order to make him look good. And at times we were doing that, sometimes we weren't. But then as a play caller, you have to constantly evaluate your current roster and what are they capable of doing well and what are the limitations, and then you make sure that you're calling things that kind of fit that.
Mm-hmm.
Andy, another 3-3-5 defense. What do you see in Kansas State?
Some similar. They're good defense. They're probably statistically they're based off our analytics. I think they're probably top defense in the league right now, right, in terms of points per possession and things like that. So they're good. They're tough. They're physical. Relentless is a word that I would use to describe them and how they play. There's multiplicity back there. I think their back half does a really good job disguising things and playing their coverages, and then when there's opportunities that offenses have to be predictable. Their front really demonstrates the ability to generate some pass rush. So we'll have our hands full again, But again, I've said like a broken record. It's Big 12 football, every week that's what it's supposed to be like at this level. So we got to do our deal, You execute the way we're capable of executing, and things will be fine.
With Cole, if he's the guy, who would be his backup?
Well, it depends. There's a couple scenarios. Jason's practicing today, right? Mikey and Ben Easters. Those are the 4 quarterbacks that are available to play.
How much was Jason able to do?
Took a bunch of reps. That's all I'll say. Took a lot of reps.
When you go through a game plan, you want to emphasize the thing the quarterback does well. What do you think are those things that Cole does well that you feel like you'd like to highlight in just a general game plan?
His ability to manage what we're doing, offensively. Like some players, you might just be like, ooh, we're not worried about a long play call or a motion or a check or he can handle that stuff really, really well. Really, really well. So we don't blink at all about being multiple and diverse and stressful, right, between the whistles. His wittiness, his ability to make quick decisions is very, very evident, and you can see that on film in the game reps he's taken. So those are 2 things that really stick out that you want to make sure that he's doing a good job, right? Or that we're allowing him to do, I should say, with how we're calling the plays or what the game plan looks like.
Andy, with the red zone struggles last week, how frustrating is it? How disappointed was it? How long does something like that stick with you? You get so many opportunities down there each game, right?
Yeah, right. No, it stinks, and those are critical situations that we've been able to pride ourselves on in the past to do really well in and didn't, and inevitably cost us the game. So, you go refocus and we talk about what we got to do in this situation when it comes up, and what was the play called, and was it good or bad, or was it against a bad look, or you evaluate all those things, much like you do any play, really. But the critical situations that everyone's going to talk about are red zone and 3rd downs and your 1st and 10 efficiencies and turnovers and explosive plays. And if you're not doing those 5 things well, you probably aren't going to win the game, and that's what happened. So. We need to be better in those areas for sure. I mean, to your point, to your question of, how long. I mean, you have to move on. Yeah. Right? You have to call the next play. You have to get ready for the next game. And what I really loved about our team is, and I think you guys, some people asked Coach about this. We practiced on Sunday night. We moved on really, really well, and that's good. And so that shows some maturity from the players and in the organization, but it also is a testament to them, and they're like, okay, we got to move forward. We know it didn't work out our way, but there's another opportunity here a week to get better.
I know we're hammering the Ballard thing, but on the 4th down, when you kick the field goal to tie the game, when you have a backup, 3rd string even, like that, freshman, walk on, all those things that he is, does that about change the way you evaluate, should we go for the win here, or should we kick? I mean, does that conversation come up, or?
Not as much. In the moment, right?
Okay.
Like, coach is thinking about those sort of things. We're calling to score to win the game, but we're not going to be, silly, right, about it and have a chance to play for overtime there. Again, keep in mind they just gone on a really long drive to put us in that position, So you kind of you get down in there and you go, okay, all right, good, we because statistically you're not even supposed to probably get in field goal range at that point, right? And let alone we were getting inside the 10 or whatever. So there's thought about all that and all those variables that go through your head as you make calls, but you make calls in 30 seconds, right? Or less than. I mean, there was 1 30-second timeout, right? But so, coach is communicating about what we want to do if we don't, and there's always a risk reward to what you call and what you do, right? What I know that we didn't want to do was turn the ball over. That's a thought for sure, right? But at the same time, we're not going to try to be uber conservative about how we're going to go about things, because we're going to try to call to win the game, right? So it was knowing once we got to that point on the 1st and goal, it was like, okay, if we got 3 downs, was the conversation. Okay. Right? It wasn't going to be, we'll go for it. You know what I mean? It's, right. We're in the field goal range. Let's do that.
And then obviously feeling good about if you have to kick the field goal,
Cole's
shown you enough, we can go to overtime with him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Cool. Yeah.
The play where Amaj was lined up as like a Y or slide or whatever you call it, when he goes in motion, knocks the guy down. What's the inception of that play? Is that kind of like a lineman's dream right there?
It is one of his plays that he came up with way back in fall camp. It wasn't, the details of it, stuff like that, we've ironed out to make it a little bit better for that game. But you can see that the 49ers do that with Trent Williams sometimes as well. And it's another personnel group. It's another way to exchange and extend gaps and use him as a battering ram, if you will, which he was.
What was that like watching that in film with him? Did you see that?
We did. We showed it. After every game, we watch a film clip together. We call it the rock chalk tape. So anytime the guys are being physical or going showing good effort, and that was on there, among some others. So he was excited to see it.
Going back to the K-State defense real quick, just how does the way they line up differ from Iowa State and Oklahoma State, or is it just very similar?
Very similar. Very, very similar. I think every coordinator probably has different philosophies and intricacies, and personnel might be just a little bit different, so they're able to emphasize or de-emphasize certain coverages or fronts more, but structurally very similar. But and it's a bigger deal in our league than maybe some others, but I mean, it's kind of like when you play a 4-man cover 4 football team. There's a bunch of those out there too, right? Or a 3-4 cover 3 football team. There's a bunch of those out there too. So there's always, there's only so many gaps to fit. There's only in between front and coverage variations. So it's a lot of similarities.
Anything else from Coach K?
Okay, everybody, thank you. Appreciate